Hi everyone. Okay, so this is part 3 of the video series, the final part. Yeah, at this point we had just gotten back from the Portland shows, and we had also just gotten a message from the team of T-Boy Wrestling, the team of employees that we had, asking for a group meeting, which, like I mentioned in the last part, Mish was extremely nervous about, but I was not. And I think that Mish probably subconsciously knew that that was gonna be rough for him, and that was what was distracting him because he didn't seem like present in throwing this Halloween party. There was just so much stuff for this party that wasn't organized. I could just feel that something was off. Since we'd gotten back from New York, Nikki Cutler had been trying to get Mish to pay him back that $10,000 that Nikki had loaned him, which I mentioned briefly in the second video. Mish had taken this loan out without telling me, and he had taken it out under his name personally, which is like a lot of money to take out from a friend. Nikki was very smart. He made Mish like sign a contract, and he gave like a date that Mish had to pay it back by, and if he didn't, there was like interest that would accrue on the loan. And Mish signed this, but he had been hitting Mish and I both up, like, when are you gonna pay me this money back, Mish? Like, Adam, just wanting to let you know that, like, Mish owes me this much money. Bring a check to this Halloween party, like, you've already been late in paying this. Bring a check for the full amount. Mish said yes. And I was, like, asking Mish what the problem was, why he hadn't paid Nikki back, and he had, like, always came up with, like, an excuse, would, like, lie and play that off. But I told Mish, I was like, listen, you need to bring that fucking check to the Halloween party. Do not forget, you need to pay Nikki. And he was always like, yeah, I got it. I'll do it. I'm gonna bring the check, yes. So when I got to the party, I saw Nikki and he was like, hey, where's the money? And I was like, OMG, I'm sorry about all this. Like, I'm gonna go get Mish right now. Like, he's downstairs. So I went and got Mish and I was like, Nikki's upstairs in the DJ booth right now. Like, you need to go to your car and get the check and bring it to him, like, right now. And Mish was like, yeah, okay, I'll go get it from my car. And then like an hour later, I saw Nikki again, and he was like, Mish never came and gave me that check. Like, where the fuck is he? And I was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I told him to let me go find him. I went and I found Mish, and I was like, did you not give Nikki the check? Like, what were you doing when you left the party? Where did you go? And he was like, yeah, I forgot it actually. I called Al though, who's his boyfriend. He's like, Al's at my house, like he's gonna drive over right now and bring the check. And I told him, I was like, okay, just go talk to Nikki and apologize and say that Al is coming right now with that check. I later talked to Al, and Al was like, he never sent me a text asking me to bring a check. I don't even think that Mish has a checkbook. He like literally told me, oh, Al's coming in like 15 minutes. Like I texted him, like looked at his phone. It's just like crazy how easily fact checkable a lot of these lies were. But it was just all a fucking lie. He never intended to go to that party and give Nikki his money. He never had a check made up. He never wrote a check. He probably didn't have the money. And you know what? He's getting sued for it now. And I'm gonna be in that courtroom as a witness. I went back the next morning at like 9 a.m. to clean everything up. And Mish got there like probably around noon. And I was really upset that morning. I was like, that party went terribly and I'm not happy with the results of that experience. And like I told him that, and he just kind of was like, well, it happened, it's over. And I was frustrated. I was just frustrated at his nonchalance. But I could tell when he showed up that things were off, even more so than the night before. Mish got there and started telling me about this person he was seeing and how chaotic and dramatic his like relationship with this person was. And this was also like a cycle. He was always engaged in some sort of like emotional situation. And I asked him that morning, I was like, are you ever gonna end this cycle? Like, you have a boyfriend. I know you guys are non-monog or whatever, but like, you don't need this. Like, you have stability. When are you gonna end this cycle and stop focusing on these distractions? And he just, I mean, he didn't really answer that in a straightforward way. He was just like, oh, it's not chaotic, it's just whatever, right? He kind of like brushed my comment off, but it dawned on me, he didn't want to focus on having a stable, loving, quiet, grounded relationship with his boyfriend. He enjoyed emotional chaos, either consciously or subconsciously. Like, he was actively inviting chaotic situations into his life. And because we shared a business and we shared a project together, the door for chaos was also open in my life too. And I fucking hate chaos. Like, I'm trying to get my shit together. And right as I had that realization, we walked out of the bar to see his car being ticketed. I went and pulled my car out before I got a ticket. And I don't know, it felt a little symbolic to me. But yeah, the meeting was coming up the Tuesday after Halloween weekend. I wasn't concerned about it at all. I was barely thinking about it. I had written out what I was going to present to the group at that meeting upcoming. Just kind of here's all the stuff that I'm gonna change and I'm gonna make sure it changes. I'd love to hear your feedback. Yeah, but Tuesday morning, I went over to Misha's house. This is October 28th. Mish seemed depressed already. He was just I don't want to do this. This is gonna be terrible. And I was it's gonna be fine. Let's just go over our list of what we want to talk about. And all you have to do is sit there and be professional and smile and listen to what everyone has to say, and you don't need to have responses to everything right away. So we get on the meeting, everyone kind of trickles in, and I started the meeting off first by being thank you for organizing this, thank you for sticking with us during this first year, this first season. The first year is always the hardest. So I told them about my immediate plans that I was making to improve conditions for next year. One is the housing situation. In each city, we would either have an Airbnb or hotel rooms for the staff, and then there would be a T-Boy house for the wrestlers that we were hoping to have sponsored. Misha and I were working on getting a sponsor for the wrestlers' house. I also let everyone know that we would have a staff member in the house, making sure everyone was comfortable, following the rules, respecting each other. And then I said that Misha and I were getting a bank account, ASAP, and that I would have access to that. I also said that Mish had an accountant that we were planning on starting to work with, and that accountant would be the one who's paying everyone from here on out. Everyone would be getting contracts, everyone would be getting paid on a net 30, and it would be a check that's mailed to them from our accountant. There will be no more delays in payment. You won't need to text Mish and ask him to pay you. You'll just be able to call our accountant and be is my check coming? The group seemed like they appreciated what I had said. Everyone kind of nodded, and Ashton said, thank you for that, but I think it's deeper than you realize, Adam. And I was what? And then everyone started telling me what they had figured out kind of behind the scenes, and my life flipped over and over and over again. Everyone said that they had put together a spreadsheet of all the money that Mish owed them and all of the money that they knew Mish owed other people, and that altogether it was $50K. And I was shocked. I knew he owed people money, and everyone was this isn't even all the money that he owes people, this is just what he owes us. And I asked Mish, I was do you have the money? And he was yeah, I have the money, it's just it takes me a little while to pay people. And then people on the call were if you have the money, why can't you just pay everyone right now? And Mish said something about Zelle limits, and Rob was why don't you just go to the bank and write everyone checks? There's not a limit to how many checks that you can write. And I was shocked. I didn't know that. And I turned to Mish and I was is that true? Can you write just as many checks as you want? And Mish was yeah. They kind of moved on to the next topic, which was behaviors that concerned the group that Mish had exhibited. Just kind of a lack of boundaries and a weird sense of humor. And I couldn't defend him on this. I really couldn't stick up for him on this because he'd do that shit to me too. They were right, though. He didn't act all the time as a boss should. You can't be as flirty with people. It's it's no longer a casual friendship or relationship. It's got another level added to it once you start hiring and paying people. Yeah, he clearly had just been not taking his role seriously. But there was a lot of stuff that got said on this Zoom call, you know, it was just a really difficult conversation. Everyone was really sad and emotional. Like, the staff was saying pretty unanimously that they want the project to move forward, that they want to keep doing T-Boy wrestling, that they love this thing, but that it couldn't go on like this. And they couldn't do this project if it was going to continue like this. This is the first time Mish spoke in the meeting also, was after they said that. He just immediately said, okay, fine then, I'll just leave. And everyone was really confused, including me. I remember someone in the group saying, like, no one said that you needed to leave. Why is your first instinct to leave instead of to apologize or try to make this right with everyone? And I think it was like at this moment that Mish just got up and walked out of the house in the middle of the meeting, leaving me there by myself. Yeah, I was stunned. I was just like, this motherfucker just left me sitting here with these angry staff members that are angry at him to take all of the smoke for him. I apologized to everyone. I tried to keep the call going for a second. I didn't really know what to do. I said something like, so sorry about that. This is very exemplary of how I often feel in Mish and I's relationship. And everyone was kind of like, with all due respect, Adam, this meeting isn't about you. It's about us and Mish, and you need to go get him. And I was like, okay, I'll go get him. So sorry about that. I'll be right back. And I walked out his door expecting to find him, like, you know, on the porch or something, but he was nowhere to be found. I ran to his backyard. He wasn't there. I, like, ran around his house. He was nowhere to be found. So I called him, and I was pissed at this point. And he picked up, and I told him, like, that he better get his ass back in this house right now, and that he was making everything 1,000 times worse by running away from it. And he said something like, well, I just needed to cry and I didn't want to do it in front of everybody. And I told him, you better get back inside right now and cry on that camera because this is not acceptable. But I went back inside and I told the group, I was like, I can't find him physically, but I just called him and told him to get his ass back inside, so he should be coming. And everyone was like, where did he go? I was like, I don't know. But yeah, he finally did come back into the house a minute later, and everyone was clearly way more pissed off than they were before he had walked out of the house. They all pointed out that leaving the room without excusing yourself, and when your employees are bringing up concerns, saying, fine, I'll just leave, neither of those things are something a good leader would do. Yeah, honestly, the minute that he walked out of that meeting and left me there, I knew it was over. He would never be able to take responsibility for his actions. And I couldn't stand next to a partner who can't handle a group of people pointing out his wrongful actions to him and not own up to it and take responsibility. And the rest of the meeting was just more learning about things that I didn't know, and more people voicing their opinion, telling their side of the story, or revealing more information that they had learned. Mish didn't even look at the camera. When he came back inside from going outside to do whatever it was he did, he like sat there like this and didn't say a word. He just sat there and like scowled into the distance. Didn't look at the camera, didn't make eye contact with anyone, never said another word the rest of the meeting. Never said that he was sorry. And as the meeting was wrapping up, I told everyone that I would think about all of this and that I would do whatever I could to keep things going if that's what the group wanted. If everyone wanted this to continue, then I would try to keep it going. After that meeting, I kind of felt relieved. It was strange. It was like I felt like I was validated in all of my suspicions. Like all of the red flags, all of these like intuitive nudges where suddenly, like, I had proof of them. I knew I wasn't crazy. I left the meeting and I left Misha's house. He was obviously, like, after the call was over, like, very upset and, you know, being like, my life is over. Everything's over. Adam, you should, like, take this yourself. I should leave the group. And so I was like, okay, I just need to go home and kind of process what just happened and make some decisions for myself. And after I left, there were a lot of the team members who were on the call who had reached out to me and been like, hey, you handled that super well. Like, we appreciate you wanting to make things right and listening to us. I can tell that you had no idea any of that was coming. Like, good job. And that made me feel really good too. But I set up meetings with some of the staff, and all of my meetings with different people kind of led me to realize, like, this team is not comfortable working with Mish anymore, and I need to kick him out. And I told them, just as I had told the larger group the day before, like, I'll do whatever I can to keep this project going. So I went home after my meetings with people and told Mish to come over to my house. And he came over, and I told him that I didn't want to work with him and that I didn't want to be business partners anymore. And he didn't really say much. He just kind of nodded. And I told him I needed the Eventbrite login, the Venmo, all the logins. And he just, took all of the things I was saying and then left. I was really worried. I had just put in my 30-day notice to move out of my apartment a week before this had happened. Because Mish had been assuring me, I'm gonna give you your half of these profits. And I was thinking, oh, that's coming, and I was renting month to month. Mish clearly, on some level, knew that I would not be getting that amount of money. So I don't know why he said it was a good time. It put me in a really horrible situation where I had to find housing with no money, a horrible credit score, and no job. And he should have just told me if it wasn't a good time, hey, just give it 2 months actually, move out then. But he decided to lie to me about something even as serious as housing, whether or not I would be able to find somewhere to live. It's just a dick move. And I didn't know how I was gonna get out of it, and I was freaking out, and he could have been honest and helped me avoid that, but he just lied. The meeting happened on the 28th of October, on Tuesday, and Mish had already made plans weeks before. I already knew these plans were in existence, to go to New York City to take his nephew trick-or-treating. So Mish was like, I have to go see my family still. I leave on Thursday. We can work more of this stuff out when I'm back. I'll be back on Monday. I told him, I was like, you really shouldn't leave right now if you can, cancel the trip, if there's any way you can cancel it, because, you owe so many people money and it's such a big amount, it's gonna look like you're lambing it. It's gonna look like you're running away. People don't know that you've been planning this for weeks, dude. And he was like, I have to go. My family will be so mad at me. At this point, I had to pay rent on October 31st. And, he hadn't paid me for the Halloween party, or for Portland, or for New York, or for any of our other parties. I hadn't been getting paid from any of those, so I had no money. And so he was like, yeah, I'll send you your rent once I land in New York. And I texted him, as he was leaving to go to New York, hey man, I know you said you're gonna send this when you land, but can you please send it right now? I don't have any money to eat anything, and I don't have any groceries right now. Can you please, send me at least some of this? He never texted me back. Because of that, I was, really hungry all day. And as I got hungrier and hungrier throughout the day, I got angrier and angrier when he should have been landing and he hadn't sent me a text or anything. I sent him a long message being like, I can't defend you in all of this stuff and all these situations when I'm doing all of this work, dealing with all this bullshit, and you haven't even paid me enough money so that I can eat food and pay my rent. I kicked him out of the group on Wednesday. He left on Thursday. When I kicked him out on Wednesday, I was like, you need to send me the Eventbrite. Immediately. I need to log in. And he'd been delaying it. And I was like, you need to pay me and you need to log me into this Eventbrite account. You're lying. Why aren't you doing these things? And he texted around, when he should have been landing, and was like, I can't send you the money because my plane can't land. We've been circling around JFK. And I was like, how the fuck can your plane not land? He was like, we don't know why, but everyone on this plane is pissed and so confused. And I was like, oh my God, he's gotta still be lying. What? And he was like, okay, we got rerouted to Buffalo, New York. to land there. I'll send you the money once we land there. And I was like, this is so strange and bizarre. Like, maybe he really is trying to land it. Maybe he is running away. And so at this point, I was like, this is absurd and like getting more and more bizarre. And so I called Austin, the owner of Trans Guy Supply, who had been our biggest sponsor and come to all the shows with us, who we had a relationship. Mish, Austin, and I all had a relationship. Like, if there was anyone who was going to be able to take the paddles to this flatlining project, it was probably going to be Austin. I was like, this is who can help me right now and who would want to help me. So I called him and I asked him, like, hey, like, do you already know what's going on? Like, I don't know how much you know. And he was like, I know a little bit. A few people have called and talked to me. And I asked him, I was like, do you have any, like, advice or ideas of, like, what I should do here? Yeah, he was like, if you're comfortable, I would love to, you know, help you with this project, like join in with you as a partner, keep this project alive in a sustainable way. In partnering with me, he was also offering, like, I can help you get the assets from Mish, like information from Mish, the passwords, like I can help you get that sorted legally. And then he was like, you know, once we do all that, we can like go forward with the shows when the time is right and like kind of restructure this company. And I said yes. Austin had also had a business partner like a few years back who had done something kind of similar. But I was honestly relieved that Austin had offered to join. I needed somebody in this situation who Mish would respond to, who Mish respected, who like knew what to ask Mish for, who knew this process already. I needed someone who could help guide me through the turbulent waters of like getting scammed by your business partner. And Austin, you know, he had all of this stuff. He had all this knowledge and these resources, so it was a no-brainer to me. It was actually my only option. And Mish knew that I didn't have legal resources. I didn't have any money to hire legal resources, but Austin certainly did. He couldn't lie to Austin like he could lie to me. Like, Austin would know. And who knows how difficult it would have been to get some of these logins or passwords or this information if I hadn't had Austin helping me ascertain all of this stuff. It would have been 100,000 times more difficult. And another reason why Mish was like, I knew that Mish would listen to Austin and be compliant with his demands was because Mish owed and still does owe Austin the largest sum of money out of anybody. Like, he owes Austin $12,000 because he never paid him back for the Portland venue, like I mentioned in my previous video. He knew that Austin could sue the shit out of him in like a second. And that it was actually, I think he knew, like, it's actually better for me legally, personally, if I give my company to Austin and he doesn't sue me. And I just comply with whatever he's saying. He was afraid of Austin. And also, Mish was on his way to New York and was going to stay with Austin, who lives in New York City. So as soon as Mish landed in Buffalo, Austin called him and was like, listen, I'm going to partner with Adam on T-Boy Wrestling. You can't stay with me anymore. Like, I know what's going on. Like, you need to go back to LA right now. And so Mish was like, okay, yeah, I'll go back in the morning. But Mish sent me the money for my rent like that night, but he still wouldn't log me into the Eventbrite or the Venmo account. And I told Austin this, and he was like, the first thing that you do when Mish lands in Los Angeles is you need that Eventbrite login. Then he said something that made me sick to my stomach. He was like, if Mish took out all of that money from the shows for next year and has been taking money out preemptively for like the pre-sales, we're fucked. And I was like, no way. Like, can he even do that? Like, that would be so fucked up if he did that. That would be horrible. And Austin was like, you literally never know where people will draw the line when it comes to money. He may have done that. You can take your profits out of Eventbrite early. You just have to like pay a percentage or like a fee. But Austin was like, he might have stolen all of next year's money, and we really need to know if that's the case, because if it is, we definitely can't throw any of the shows next year. But Austin was like, I called Mish and I've been talking to him and I got him to send me a screenshot of his bank account, and it has $36,000 in it. And he like sent me the screenshot too. And the last 4 digits of that bank account added up to the ones that, I knew about. So I was like, okay, that seems legit. And I was relieved in seeing that screenshot because I was like, okay, it's not $50,000, but it's better than zero. Like, we can pay, some of the most outstanding debts, or like we can pay the people who really need the money right now with that. And Austin was like, okay, I told Mish that he needs to sign all of that money over to you, and you guys are going to go to the bank as soon as he lands in Los Angeles, and he's going to give you all of that money, and then you're going to cut everyone checks and drive around LA and drop the checks off. And Mish had agreed to that and then said yes. And so I texted him and was like, meet me at the Bank of America next to your house at 11 a.m. I sent him the address. I was like, I'll be there waiting. So yeah, Mish had left on Thursday, been delayed, and returned Friday morning. And at 9 in the morning, Mish calls me and was like, I'm coming over to your house right now with $19,000 in cash. And I started yelling at him. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, where did you get $19,000 in cash? Why is it in cash? Did you like rob someone and then flip their possessions at a pawn shop? Like, I don't want your skeezy, scammy ass, unreceipted, unaccounted for $19,000 in cash. Like, do not come over to my house and give that shit to me. Meet me at the bank like a fucking normal person. Like, why are you acting like we're on an episode of The Wire? But he told me he had sold his car and was bringing me the cash he had gotten from selling his car. And I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? Why would you sell your car if you had $36,000 in your bank account? Like, Austin showed me a screenshot of your bank account. Why would you need to sell your car? And he didn't say anything to that. He was just like, I'll be over later. And I was like, do not come to my house. Hung up, and I called Austin immediately and was like, something's going on here. This is crazy. And this is like why I needed Austin, because clearly Mish was like, Adam's an idiot, I can just get away with whatever, like, right? But I called Austin and I let him know what was going on, and he was like, oh my god, okay, I'll talk to Mish. So he called me a little while later and says that Mish admitted that that $36,000 screenshot was fake. He admitted that it was old, that it was a really old screenshot, and that, in fact, he did not have $36,000 in his bank account, that he had actually like $30 in his bank account, and sent Austin a new screenshot. And Austin was like, how old was that other screenshot? And Mish didn't say. But Austin was like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know if that screenshot from yesterday really was old, or if he transferred all that money out somewhere. But what I do know is that you need to go over and get the Eventbrite login right now. So Austin had also told Mish, like, you need to log Adam and I into the Eventbrite, and Mish had kept being like, yeah, that's fine, like, let me give you guys access to it. And like, would give mine and Austin's email access, so we would like get a notification, and then he would immediately revoke the access. So when we did click on the link, it would be like, oh, this link is expired. And then we would text him and be like, what the fuck? Like, this doesn't actually work. And he was like, oh, let me try it again. And then would wait like hours and hours and hours, and we would like never get another thing sent to us. And it was like that's why Austin was like, you need to go over there right now, because he knew that something was wrong. And I was like, at this point, so angry. I was furious. And I drove to Mish's house like right after me and Austin got off the phone. So I got to his house. He opens the door for me, and I like push past him into his house, and I was like, do not talk to me, don't say a word to me until I'm logged in on this Eventbrite. And I gave him my phone. He would try and say something, and I'd just be like, no, don't say anything. I don't want to hear it. Log me in. And me cutting him off multiple times, eventually he was just kind of like over there like tapping away on this phone, fiddling with it like for way too long, obviously trying to stall. He had no choice. He got trapped, and he had to log me in. He also logged Austin in, and I got a text from Austin being like, okay, I'm in the account now. So there's an organizer app for Eventbrite. There's like the Eventbrite app, which is like for normal, like if you're going to the event. Then there's an organizer app, which is more used for like scanning tickets or like checking like people's name off on a list or something. But you can't see where the money was taken out, or what bank account it was sent to, or like what day or what amount. Like, I couldn't see any of that info on my own phone. But because Austin was sitting on his computer in New York and was like, okay, I'll call you back and let you know what I find. Like, he was doing that side of things on his computer. And he was looking everything over while I was physically at Misha's house. And eventually his boyfriend, Al, came in, clearly just getting off of work. And Al, like, saw me, like, looking, like, furious, and I could tell he was, like, a little bit shocked and was like, what's going on in here? But I was like, hi, Al. So sorry you have to see me like this. So sorry you have to witness this at all. Like, you know, I turned to Misha and I was like, isn't it fucking awkward for you now that your boyfriend has to watch me scream at you? Like, isn't that horrible for you now? Don't you feel like shit? After I was logged in on everything, I was like, okay, so where's that $19,000 in cash that you were gonna bring to me earlier? Give that to me right now. Where is it? And he was like, yeah, so my car's sale, it's actually like being processed still. I don't have the money. And I was like, you said you had the money and you were coming to my house. And he was like, oh, they're still processing the payment. But they said I can come pick up a check later today. And I was like, oh, great. Well, I'll stay here all fucking day if I have to. I'll be here at your kitchen table giving you terrible energy all day until you're ready to go to the dealership. And I'll be going with you and going to the bank with you and having you sign that check over to me because, like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm staying here all day. And then I told him, I was like, I know that 36K like screenshot was fake. Like, I know you lied to Austin about that. And I was like, I want to see how much money is really in your bank account right now. Like, I want you to get on your computer, on your laptop, and open up your bank account and let me look at it. If you've been using your personal bank account for all TDLA and T-Boy Wrestling business, that's your fault. I need to look at your personal bank account now. And he wouldn't do it. And then he said something about how he couldn't do that because his family, like that account, his family also has access to. And I was like, wait, are you telling me that your family, like his mom, like your mom had the ability to take out money from your personal bank account, which was where all of the TDLA and T-Boy Wrestling finances were going? You're telling me that? And he was like, no, not like that. And I was just like, nothing you're saying is making sense, and you need to log in on your bank account right now and show me everything. And his boyfriend was like, you should just show him the money, babe. Like, it's fine, just show him. And Misha was like, no, I'm not gonna show you. And then Al took the dog on a walk and left. And it was just us two alone. And he would barely look at me. He was just kind of like looking down at his feet. And then my phone rang. It was Austin, and I picked it up. And I was like, hey, Austin. And he said, Adam, he took it all. All the pre-sale money for 2026. He stole it all. And I was like, what? Austin said, it's almost all gone. There was like 37K in there, and he took almost all of it. There's only 3K left. And I was like, oh my God. And I could see on the other side of the room, like Mish just knew that he had gotten caught. He was like looking down at his feet, like so nervously, I could just tell. And then Austin said, the last time he took money out was yesterday. Yesterday. And that made me, I screamed, what? He was like, the last withdrawal is October 31st. And I was like, oh my God. Okay, I have to go. Like, I'll call you later, Austin. And I looked at Mish. I wonder what I looked like when I looked at him after I hung up that phone, because he looked terrified. I can't even imagine how angry I looked. But I was like, you stole all the money. And then he lied. He was like, no, I didn't. I was like, dude, do not fucking lie to me. Like, I have the proof right here. And Austin had sent me a screenshot of the Eventbrite account having money taken out of it. I was like, I have the screenshot right fucking here. And I was like losing my mind. Like, I would just found this information out like while I'm in front of him. And I just started screaming like, you're fucking disgusting. Like, you're stealing from these queer communities that we're not even a part of. You're fucking up this project that you're not even involved in anymore. Like, I've kicked you out of this and you're still stealing from it. Like, you're not even a part of it anymore and you're still stealing. And I was like, how am I supposed to refund all of these shows now? Like, I don't have any money. You stole it all. How am I going to refund these people? He like stuttered something about how I could still throw all the shows with Austin. And I screamed back at him. I was like, you took the profits. It's like not possible to throw the shows. You stole the profits. And then he said something that really just blew my mind. He was like, well, I could just fix it if you let me still be a part of it. I could fix it if you just let me still be a part of it. I was like, do you think that I'm fucking stupid? If you think that I'm ever working with you again after this, you're delusional. I'm never talking to you again after this. You fucked me over harder than any cis person ever has, and we're never speaking again after this. And for some reason, like, that was his last straw. This, me saying that I wouldn't work with him anymore, was his last straw. He like immediately got up and was like, I can't be around you anymore, you're crazy. And I was like, I'm crazy because you're making me crazy. You're putting me in this situation that I have to be crazy. And after that, he like got off of the couch and like put his Crocs on and like ran out of his front door, ran away from me. I'm still in his house. And he was like, you have to get out of my house, like you're fucking crazy, like acting like he was scared of me, and ran out of his house, ran down the street, and I'm standing on his porch like, if you want me out of your fucking house, then give me that fucking money right now. Like, as he's running down the street, his neighbors are like poking their heads out of their door, and then he was gone. I was like, this motherfucker really ran away from me as I'm sitting in his house. That's insane. Like, and then I was just alone in his house, and I was like, what do I do now? Like, I guess I'll just chill here all day or something. Like, you can't leave forever. But then his boyfriend came back, and I was like, oh yeah, Al. I was like, hello, Al. And his boyfriend was like, where'd Mish go? And I was like, he ran away down the street. And then I told his boyfriend everything. It was honestly dumb of Mish to do that. I showed him this statement like the group had written out. I showed him the document where it just showed all the debt that Mish owed. I showed him the screenshots of Mish taking the money from the Eventbrite. Like, I showed him everything. And Al just like started crying, and you know, I hugged him and I was like, I'm so sorry, dude. Like, you know, I love you. I'm so sorry that this is happening. But I was like, you should leave him, because we're the two people that he cares, or that he claims to care the most about in the whole world. And look what he just did to me. Like, you gotta leave him. And then Al told me that Mish had been borrowing money from him too. And I was shocked. He said that Mish owed him like $6K. And Al is like a Starbucks barista. Why in the fuck are you borrowing $6K from your barista boyfriend? Like, then Al told me that Mish, a couple days ago, had borrowed money from him and then given me that money to pay my rent. Al was like, yeah, he borrowed money from me to give to you to pay your rent. And I was like, what? That came from you? And Al was like, yeah. And I was so upset. I apologized. I was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that that was coming from you. I thought it was coming from Mish. And Al was like, it's okay. Like, it's not your fault. You didn't know. Like, Mish didn't want you to know. I called Austin at this point and had Al and Austin kind of talk to each other and, you know, explain what had just gone on, and like we all kind of, you know, formed a little plan together. And when Mish had left and ran away from me, he had texted me right afterwards and been like, I'm going to get the money from the car dealership right now. And I was like, I want to go with you. Like, send me the address of this dealership. And he never sent me the address. And then Al was like, oh yeah, he's not at the car dealership. Like, he's at the beach. Like, I have his location. He's at the beach right now. And I was like, motherfucker. Of course he is. I doubt he ever sold his car. And then after that, I hugged Al and I left. I was like, I've been having an adrenaline rush for like 7 hours straight. And then that Sunday, the like T-Boy Wrestling team, the group, had decided to meet up in the park and kind of just like hang out and talk. And I was kind of nervous to see everyone. I was like, I know that like this is really intense, like emotions are very high right now. A lot of people are looking to me for answers that I don't have and that I can't get. This day at the park, I learned more from the staff about Mish. And some of the most egregious things, I'll name a few of them. One, he had completely lied to both me and his boyfriend, Al, about making and shipping merch. He had told both of us multiple times, oh yeah, Clark has printed that merch for New York and shipped it out already. It's like already out and printed and done. And Clark did all of that. And me and Al were like, did Mish like have you do that? Like, did it ever get shipped out? And Clark was like, he never even asked me to do that. He never brought it up. None of that is made and none of it is shipped. He just told me and Al so many times, each separately, that that he had Clark do this in such a convincing way. When someone would reach out to me, like my friend or something, and be like, hey, any updates? Like, I never got my merch. I would be like, what the fuck? Mish, like, I'd call him and be like, dude, what the fuck? Like, this person never got their merch. Like, didn't you say you sent it? And he would be like, oh yeah, like, what's their last name? Maybe they put their address in wrong, like, when they signed up to get it sent to them. Like, give me their last name and I'll get the tracking number. He would, like, lie to that extent. He's told that to me and to Al multiple times. Because Al was the one who sold all the merch at the shows. So people would DM Al and be like, where is this stuff? And Al would go to his boyfriend and be like, where is this stuff? And then Mish would lie to his own boyfriend. I found out that Mish had been evicted from the print shop. He didn't tell anyone that they were being evicted. He was like, oh, we're just moving to a smaller location. No, you're not moving. You're being fucking evicted, bro. I also found out that Mish never paid Clark a single fucking dollar for the T-Boy Wrestling photos. Those photos are so amazing, and like, I treasure them so much. So many newspapers and magazines and like Wikipedia used Clark's photos. I also found out Butch's, one of the guys in the group, their mom is like an accountant. And turns out Butch's mom had offered to do free accounting services for TDLA and T-Boy Wrestling, and Mish had declined. But Butch was like, my mom looked it up, and like, she can't find TDLA as an LLC anywhere, and she can't find any paperwork that's copywriting T-Boy Wrestling. But yeah, that's pretty much the worst of it. We had tallied up the total amount of what Mish owed everyone, plus vendors, and plus what he had taken from the Eventbrite. It totaled up to about $100,000 in debt. It's a lot of debt. That week, Austin's lawyer wrote a contract that transferred all of the assets from Mish to Austin. And in that contract, it also maintained that Mish is the sole party liable for all debts, taxes, etc. That all falls on Mish, and Mish signed it. I'm glad that that document exists. At least he wasn't like fucking me over legally. Austin had been like, hey y'all, we probably shouldn't make this public like immediately. We need to like get all of our facts straight and what's going on and make a plan for like what we're doing in the future. And then instead of unveiling like bad news, like just like this horrible thing, we can present it in like a change of leadership, things getting better, like this is the new era of T-Boy Wrestling, and it can be like a positive thing instead of a negative thing. This was around November 4th, and I needed to be moved out of my apartment by November 18th. But there was a silver lining, like I did have a way out. Because T-Boy Wrestling was going to be transferred to Austin and under his like company's umbrella, like of Trans Guy Supply, I would be able to be hired by TGS as a creative director of this project. He gave me a contract, and because of this contract, I was able to apply for housing, and I got approved. Thank God. That contract literally saved my ass. But Austin was like, okay, before you really get into the swing of things, like before you really get all of this moving going, I think that we should make a post on TDLA, publicly dissolving Trans Youth of LA and announcing that T-Boy Wrestling will be moving into Trans Guy Supply's ownership. From there, we can announce this is how T-Boy Wrestling is going to operate as owned by Trans Guy Supply. But TDLA first needs to like dissolve. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So Austin was really pressuring me. He's like, you need to make this post like by the end of the week. And I agreed. I was like feeling anxious. There was a lot of like whisperings going around and people like texting me being like, I heard some weird shit's going on. It didn't feel good to write. It didn't feel good to post. It was really heartbreaking to like dissolve this thing that I had worked so hard to make. But it did feel like I needed to do it. It didn't feel good, but it did feel necessary. But I'd also been telling vendors and people like who had been emailing me, I'd been telling them like, this is what's going on, like I'm making a public statement about this, at the end of the week. And in the messages that I'd been sending, I'd been CCing Mish. so he could respond to these people asking what's going on if he wanted to. But I was like, I'm not hiding the fact that I'm making a public post. Like, he should know. But then later, Austin texted me and was like, Mish just called me asking to read the post that TDLA is gonna make before it goes up. And I laughed and I was like, if he wants to fucking see that shit, he can fucking message me himself. And then Austin was like, that's exactly what I thought you were gonna say. That's what I told him. And I was like, thank you. And he never asked me. Thursday, Mish made some like bullshit ass stories post. It was just half-assed and like not accountable at all, and it was also a stories post. Like, that shit's gonna disappear in 24 hours. Like, that's not accountability. You can't do that. It kind of like put more pressure on me to like talk publicly, because now people were just like hearing what Mish had to say about it. So I was like, okay, I gotta really like work on finishing up this post. So I got it into a place that I felt like it was good enough to go, and I put it on the internet. I just knew that things needed to move forward and start happening publicly, and that nothing could come to a close until that had been done. And that was Friday morning. After I posted that and people started like freaking out, and I was just like, whatever, I don't need to deal with this, I'm just turning my phone off. I needed to actually move out of my apartment. I had real world, physical, actual life problems that I was trying to figure out. Everyone who was kind of on the team of T-Boy Wrestling, they were like reading the comments, they were looking at people's Instagram stories, they were like getting texts from their friends and like hearing people talk about us and them, and they were getting upset, and like there was just a lot of intense emotions already within the team. Like, people were already really hurt by this. Like, their livelihoods have been hurt, their relationships have been hurt, their feelings have been hurt, their trust, their memories of the experiences now were like totally different. It just was, I think, hard for a lot of people to deal with. Also, do you remember in chapter 1 when I talked about dating a guy named Ryan? I dated this guy, Ryan, for, I don't know, a couple months, and we broke up. It ended like pretty amicably. It was like NBD. Then I met Lyle, and he's the love of my life. That's the last person I dated before I met Lyle, though. Like, it's my most recent ex. He and I aren't friends. We don't hang out. We don't talk. He's never come to a T-Boy Wrestling. He never came to the TDLA events. Haven't seen him. The day after I posted the post making a dissolution of TDLA and T-Boy Wrestling, the literal next morning, he sent me an insane text message being like, I'm making a documentary about T-Boy Wrestling that's just the facts, and I want to interview you. I'm sorry, what? He also didn't just send that message to me, he sent it to a ton of people. People that weren't involved, really, but I had like 6 to 10 people reach out to me and be like, who is this guy and why is he DMing me? And I was like, oh, him? Oh, that's my ex-boyfriend. Did he mention that in the message? Oh, no, he didn't. But yeah, the audacity with this one is really insane to me, I will say. I never responded to that text message because I'm not gonna justify that with a response. There's just so many levels of it that are like weird and fucked up. There's like one, it's just kind of like the day after it's being dissolved, making a documentary about it is giving like opportunistic shark smells blood in the water. I found out that he had been interviewing Mish, that like him and Mish were in contact talking and Mish was gonna be interviewed by him. And then Austin asked Mish that, he was like, are you doing like a documentary with Adam's ex? Like, that's really weird, dude. And Mish was like, no, I'm not. No. Also, he hasn't been to these events. He hasn't been involved in the events. The only relationship or connection he has to this event is me. And the fact that he's like also trans, but like, it's literally like I'm the connection. I'm also almost certain if he did release this project, he would not disclose our relationship. He didn't disclose it in any of the messages he sent to people reaching out. It seems like he never had an intention of doing that. You need, for your journalism to be sound, you need to disclose anything that would make the thing that you're creating biased. You need to like let the viewer know, or else it's not journalism, it's just drama. Yeah, but all of this is going on, right? And things just keep spiraling downward. And so I got a message being like, hey, I think that you should come to Al-Anon. And I was like, what's Al-Anon? And he explained the concept of it to me. And I was like, cool, when's the next one? And he was like, well, there's a queer meetup at 11. I drove over like immediately. But Al-Anon felt really nice. It kind of felt like gay church. But they went through their normal meeting things and they were like, here are the rules of Al-Anon. And then they were like, is there anyone in the room who's never been here before? If there is, come up to the podium and like share. And I kind of waited a second to see if there was anyone else, and there wasn't. So I was like, okay, it's me. I talked about what I'd been experiencing, about how my business partner seemed to have like a compulsive debting problem, or he'd racked up like 100K in debt and like had been lying to me about it the whole time. It was funny, I was standing up there and I was looking at the crowd of like 60 gay people or whatever, and I was like, I see some familiar faces. There's definitely some people here who know exactly who I am and know exactly what's happening. But I'm sitting through the rest of this meeting and they're making a lot of really good points. People up there are talking about how you can't control what other people do. You can't control other people's actions, and that it's actually good to slow down, and that healing takes a long time, and that releasing control is actually the right thing to do. That's how you heal and find like peace in these situations. And they were talking about how you need to take responsibility in this situation by choosing yourself and choosing the right thing to do for you. And then someone said something about the 3 C's. They said something like, I didn't cause it, I can't control it, and I can't cure it. I don't know, I kind of felt like a serene acceptance of the situation that was playing out before me. Then my phone starts ringing, I get a call from Austin, so I step out to take it, and he asks me, he's like, have you seen my texts? And I was like, no, I'm actually in an Al-Anon meeting right now. Like, he said, take a look at the texts, I've written out a statement for TGS to post, let me know what you think about it. And I read it over and it was really obvious that it was written by ChatGPT. First of all, I was like, this is made by a computer. And it was kind of just like a post making sure the public knew that Austin was taking over T-Boy Wrestling, not as a fully outside party, but as someone who had also been manipulated and lied to by Mish and had been like invested in this project from the start. Like it wasn't just this big business is taking over this thing that you love. And there's nothing wrong with any of those sentiments. Like he is correct, like the sentiment is correct. However, posting isn't going to work. You can't make people see your perspective on the situation immediately. You need to just let them have their reaction to what you're, like, the changes that are happening. You can't force them to see your point of view and agree with you. The internet is just not, it's not based in reality. Let people think whatever they want about you. You just have to find that acceptance and know in your heart that you're doing what you think is right. And so, I mean, I couldn't really tell him that as I read it because he was like kind of my boss at that point. And I was also in the middle of an Al-Anon meeting that they were just like, you can't control anything. I was like, can you send this to other people in the group? I really need to go back into this meeting. And I went back into the meeting and it was kind of wrapping up actually. But a few people came up to me and one of them was this guy who was like, hey, I had a really similar situation happen with my business partner. It was really horrible, but it gets better. And I just was like, thank you for that. I needed to hear that. And went home and kept packing. And later I got some calls from the team being like, Austin made a really crazy post on T-Boy Wrestling and TGS and it like is not going well. And I was like, I'm sorry, like I've barely looked, I've just been trying to move. Some people were like, yeah, he's arguing with people in the comments. And around this time, I think a lot of the team members were just kind of like, this is too much, I can't do T-Boy Wrestling anymore. I think a lot of people were like, I just don't feel like Austin's ready to drive this ship right now, and I just don't want to keep doing this anymore. And I was like, that's okay, I totally understand, and thank you for everything, still love you. And this was like the time that I was actually no longer packing, but putting boxes into my car and moving them to my new place. So around this time, I was like barely on the internet. It was just draining all of my energy, and I needed every ounce of energy that I had to like figure out my real world day-to-day problems. The day I was moving like the final little things out of Lyle's apartment, we were at his old place. I got a call from Austin. He basically told me in that call, he backed out of the acquiring of T-Way Wrestling. Yeah, he was like, I'm gonna give you back all the T-Way Wrestling assets and like log myself out of this Instagram and Eventbrite, whatever. It's affecting TGS, or like I'm afraid it's gonna affect TGS really negatively if I like keep going with this. And I was like, that's okay, like I get it. And I was like, does this mean that my contract is also void? And he's like, yeah, I can't hire you anymore. I was like, I understand. But I was like, is there like some part-time work I could be doing for TGS? He was like, I don't want to hire you because your art is too controversial now. And he's like, I'm sorry. And it really hurt my feelings, but I was like, okay, that's fine. And then I went into Lyle's empty apartment and like laid on the ground and like screamed, cried in a little ball. Everything I had been taken away from me at this point. The one thing I was holding on to, like, at least I have a job. Like, at least I have this contract. That was gone. I was just like devastated. Lyle came upstairs from like putting boxes into the car to just see me like in a little ball on the ground. And he kind of got me off the floor and was like, let's go home, and like got me down to the car. But I got a fucking parking ticket. So I'm like screaming, crying, and I come down and there's a fucking parking ticket on my windshield. And I was like, God, why are you doing this to me? What did I do? And it was just the, like, where is the break? So the next day, Austin texts me and was like, hey, like, let's talk on Monday about you possibly doing freelance work for TGS. And that kind of, like, was confusing to me because I was like, you already said no, that you didn't want to hire me. But I was like, okay, we can talk on Monday. But on Monday we had a phone call and he told me he would pay me for the 2 weeks that I was, like, contracted before he, like, ended the contract, and that he wanted to hire me to do freelance work for TGS. And I was like, okay, well, do you have a project in mind? Like, do you have a budget? Do you have a timeline? Like, he was like, I don't have a specific project or budget or date in mind. And I just was like, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. Like, I need real work. I don't think that this is gonna work out. No hard feelings. But I couldn't handle the rug being pulled out from me every single time I felt like I finally had stable ground. My gut was like, just walk away. A few days later, my cat started to get really sick and it wasn't looking good. I took her to the vet and they were like, she needed another surgery and it's even more expensive than the last one. So I had to put her down. It was the most heartbreaking day of my life. I loved her so much. I had her since I was 20 and she'd been with me since like I transitioned. I can't really talk about it too much because it's like super emotional, but I just couldn't get out of bed and my chest felt so empty, and it kind of still does. But a few days after that, Rob texted me asking me to come get some stuff from his garage. He was like, I have some of your TDLA stuff here. And it was really good to see him and to see Nikki. Mish still hadn't paid him the $10K that he's owed. Nikki was like, I'm taking Mish to court. Like, I have a court date set. I'm suing him. And he was like, the date's in February. Will you come and be a witness in case I need it? And I was like, yes, I will. And then Rob was like, I served Mish the papers. I was like, no way, what? Rob said, like, it's true, Nikki asked me and I was gonna say no, but then I thought, how many times in my life will I get to serve someone papers? So I did it. I asked like what he said or what happened, and Rob was like, he just kind of looked down at the papers and mumbled something about how he saw this coming and some nonsense about how he was still gonna pay everyone. And Rob was like, I just told him that I had to go and I left. I think the only way that I'm gonna really ever be able to truly know where the money is, or if he still has the money, or how it got spent, will be through the collections process legally. And it sucks that I won't be able to find out any other way than like legally, but I can't like get in touch with him. Like a few weeks later, I deleted my post from TDLA because it's actually like no longer factually accurate. Trans Guy Supply doesn't own T-Way Wrestling anymore. There is no group of people that is going to take over TDLA now. The name is like too tarnished. None of the shows are happening. TDLA is done. I'm done. Like the pages on Instagram now function like purely as an archive. I've tried to contact Mish and like make a plan with him about how we can fix these things, but he's not responded to me. And like the only way I can get any answers for this stuff is through the court system now. The reality of this situation is a lot more depressing and complicated, and yeah, I think it's a lot more sad than it is satisfying and like fun and exciting, right? Like I think a lot of people see it as like entertaining, or like they want to get to the bottom of this story and find the truth. But I think the truth is that Mish is like sick in the head and has been sick in the head for years and has been racking up debt. The thing that makes it so hard for like me and all of the team, like all these people that were so close to him and who genuinely did have a lot of like good experiences with him or alongside him, it's so confusing. It's like not what we thought was happening. It's not who we thought he was. So I think for not just me, but like it's like everyone now has realized like, oh wow, like we were getting lied to like all the time, and it really breaks your heart and makes you feel crazy, and you are like wondering like how someone who has had all of these intimate like moments, all of these memories, there was a lot of people on this team that loved Mish and like loved this project and loved this experience, and I can tell like it broke a lot of people's hearts to like have this thing that they loved that was like trans and beautiful and giving a lot of people hope just destroyed. And it's really confusing and hard for all of us. And I think the closer you were with him, the harder it is, because the more memories that you have that are tainted with this new information. A lot of people I've talked to who are older or have been involved in business for years and have seen things like this before, I've asked what they think of this, and a lot of the answers are he's bad with money and he would let these debts rack up and wouldn't budget the money that's coming in. He would always just be acting from this place of, oh, the money will come, so I'll just tell this little lie to get out of this situation right now and I'll make it right later. And he kept thinking like this thing would grow to the point where it would be able to pay off all of these debts, right? It was like he was gambling. But the problem just kept growing and growing, and he kept lying and lying until it ate him. And I think that the universe, this is a divine project. We had so many like magical, mystical experiences. I know that there are trans ancestors watching over this project and were smiling down onto it. And I know they gave Mish a lot of chances to be different, to be better, to change and to tell the truth. I don't think that this is the first, like he did this to the print shop. He probably did this farther back in his past. Like it seems like he's been doing this for a while. And I think that the universe was like, this is your ultimate test. You have all these trans people, you have this thing. Are you gonna keep lying and scheming? Or are you gonna tell the truth and like keep letting us bless this project and bless you? And I don't think he could do it. I don't think he could like face his deepest shadows. I don't think he could face these like flaws that you have to like really grapple with, and it's hard, right? But I told him this after the first meeting. I was like, if there's one thing that trans people understand, it's the concept of change, because we've all lived that change. But we also know that you don't just change overnight, and you also don't just change by sitting there and doing nothing. It's hard. It's difficult work to do. Like, it's painful, but it gives you results. Trans people know this. After that first meeting, I was like, listen, these people, if you are honest with them and really try, like, they will accept you as changed, right? Like, not every person out there is, like, comfortable with the concept of change. Some people are not willing to see someone as a new person after they've like worked on themselves a lot, and that's okay. But I think amongst trans individuals, we are all more comfortable than the average person is with the concept of changing in a radical way. I think he couldn't do it, and I think he faced the ultimate punishment. I mean, I have a lot of trust issues now that I need to heal. We called each other every day. We saw each other almost every day. Losing that person in the way that I did lose that, to all of these lies and deception, and losing those memories is extremely painful. This really broke my heart. I didn't make these videos so strangers on the internet would get more information or be on my side or feel bad for me or something. Yeah, these videos are me saying goodbye to TDLA and T-Boy Wrestling and closing the chapters. Because I'm looking now to move on to bigger and better things. I can't do this anymore. But I have learned so much during all of this. I've learned so many skills. I have proven over and over to myself that I'm capable of handling anything that gets thrown my way. And this whole situation has really grown my confidence. All of these people throughout my life who have been saying, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that, I don't know why I listened to them, because I can do that, and I did do that, and I'll do it again. I know the right opportunity will find me soon, and that I will create something meaningful again. And if that falls apart, I'll do it again, and again, and again. And even though these last 2 years of my life have been some of the hardest and most challenging years of my life, they've also been, I don't know, they've also been the most beautiful times of my life. You don't know why things in life work out the way that they do. It's not always clear. But in like 5 years, when I look back at these situations that have been so horrible and difficult for me, I can see, oh, it all actually did work out just the way it was supposed to. Those things actually didn't happen to me, they happened for me, so that I could grow and become stronger. I just have faith in the universe and faith in the divine plan, and I don't know, I'm excited for where I'm gonna go next. I don't know where that is right now. The way out doesn't look clear, but I still have like faith and confidence that it's all for a higher purpose. But thank you for watching, and thank you for coming to any of the T-Boy Wrestlings if you did, and yeah, I don't know, subscribe or something, stay tuned. Okay, hello everyone. So since I recorded part 3, there has been new information that I have learned that made the segment that I previously recorded about getting Eventbrite refunds, it made that irrelevant. So I had to take that out of the video. I'm going to be releasing a 4th very short video that explains just how to get your Eventbrite ticket refunded and why the process for getting your refund is that way. I just want that to like be separate so that people don't need to like skip to the very end of the 3rd video to like get an explanation about refunding their ticket. Just people can just watch that one if they want and get their answer and be done. I'm also going to talk in that video after I explain the Eventbrite refunding process about my experience being a witness against Amish in court and what the outcome of that court case tells us about this situation. Thank you for being patient and understanding that this is like an ongoing situation that is increasingly legal. Yeah, I just have to be careful with what I say and make sure all of the information that I'm giving is correct, and stay tuned for that. It'll be out shortly.